So, demanding that I take a picture of a possible edge of the Earth, if any, requires me to not only travel below the 60th south parallel, represented by this circle, but also to cross the entire breadth of Antarctica. According to official numbers, Antarctica has a diameter of roughly 3,400 miles, and so that means our trek will include a long boat ride for hundreds of miles below the 60th south parallel, plus a minimum 6,800-mile round-trip hike across Antarctica. That's assuming the official model is correct. Let's look at it from the alleged 60th north parallel because this will give you an idea of the tremendous area blocked off to independent exploration. This is the area of the 60th north parallels. As you can see, the 60th north parallel includes all of northern Canada, Alaska, much of Russia including St. Petersburg and other major cities, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Greenland. It is huge. Now, why in the world is this much area blocked off at the south? The Antarctic Treaty was executed in 1959 and has been in place ever since. Think about it. No country had any real alleged concerns about the environment at that time. One of the more interesting facts is that the Soviet Union also ratified the treaty, and did so from the beginning on December 1st, 1959. In other words, America, the USSR, and the rest of the major countries of the world remain partners in generally closing Antarctica throughout most of the so-called fake space race, the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, the fake moon landings, most of the Cold War, the Vietnam War, the Six-Day War, the Soviet-Afghan War, and the collapse of the Soviet Union, which at that time Russia continued as a signatory in 1992. That's some peculiar cooperation transcending international conflicts, don't you think? Do you really think that the vast resources and strategic military benefits of Antarctica were multilaterally put aside because of penguins? Even North Korea has been a signatory since 1987. For some strange reason, the Antarctic Treaty has remained sacrosanct for nearly 60 years, regardless of worldwide conflicts. For the reasonable, objective person, alarm bells should be going off right now. As I was preparing this video, I found something else that's interesting. Out of all the flags of all the countries across the Earth, can you guess which one only shows a map of the country as the emblem of the country? You guessed it. Only one. Antarctica. Yeah, the one country they want you to know the shape of. That doesn't reek of programming, does it? Let me make this clear from the beginning. Travel to Antarctica is more difficult than travel to a military base. I'm sure I already have a few globe shields ready to pounce, armed with various inanities to counter my statement, but let's ignore the global spin. This video is about evidence and facts and the reasonable assumptions based thereon. So let's decide to take a theoretical trip across Antarctica to find the edge, if any. I'm not talking about going to the visitor center along the edge of Antarctica, or an overly expensive cruise to a small ice shelf along the edge with a small excursion, or a flight to one of the multiple ceremonial poles, and then straight back again. Yeah, that's not strange at all. I must reiterate, because I will get a dozen comments telling me to take a cruise or that someone's best friend went to Antarctica. I am not talking about a trip to one of the few designated tourist locations of Antarctica. To begin with, we need to understand that anything below the 60th south parallel is referred to as the Antarctic Treaty Area. What does that mean? That means I'm generally not allowed within hundreds of miles of Antarctica, from approximately 400 to 900 miles, without obtaining a permit to do so. Now, the US government has recorded that some sailors have seen the mountain ranges of Antarctica at 300 miles distance while sailing. Of course, 300 miles should be impossible on the globe with a curvature drop of 11.4 miles, but the 60th parallel is between 400 and 900 miles away from the shoreline of Antarctica. Even under a flat Earth, that's a lot of lower atmosphere to see through, also referred to as atmospheric extinction factor, and a lot of angular size reduction. Despite the claims of the ignorant globe zealots, you can't see through that much lower atmosphere. In other words, I can't even see Antarctica from the ocean without first obtaining a permit from the US State Department, or whatever department that controls that in your country. Taking a trip to the 60th South Parallel isn't going to accomplish anything, and so we're stuck with getting a government permit. So let's go through the steps to obtaining a permit. But here's another and potentially bigger problem. What if there is no edge when you get there, but the conditions only get worse? How many years of supplies can one carry by a handheld sled and some skis? What if Antarctica goes beyond 3,400 miles? What then? When do you turn your back, and how do you prove it? Because the globe shows are just going to call you a liar anyways. Here's the definition of an environmental impacts assessment in the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations. Environmental impact assessment means the environmental review process required by the provisions of this part and by Annex 1 of the protocol, and includes preparation by the operator. It's from other countries based only on territorial claims. Getting more permits or visas from other countries who have alleged territory in Antarctica? Yeah.
I'm Dr. Stuart Clark. I'm an astronomer and I'm the author of The Unknown Universe. It's so clearly obvious that the world isn't flat. We see when ships leave the harbour, you can see as they gradually disappear below the horizon. You can see if you go up onto a tall tower or a hill and you see more over the horizon. All our physics is constructed now. The physics of orbits, actually things going around the Earth, is all constructed with three-dimensional spherical world. And the pictures from space show our world as a globe. And yet somehow, there are some people that still seem to believe that the Earth is flat. So as human beings, we love stories because stories make sense of our lives, of our world. They endow it with meaning and they can be understandable. Science is a way of constructing what we hope is a true story, something that is demonstrably true through experiment. But as we see throughout the ages, the prevailing scientific theories of the day can be overturned as we move to more precise understanding of the universe around us. And generally speaking, those become more complicated. So there is a tendency for people to reject that reality, the science of the day, and just fall back on comfortableness, things that make them feel at home, things that make them much happier, that they know what's going on. Maybe this obsession with flat Earth, the flat Earth is one of those. Or maybe they're just people who are just contrarian. I don't know. It's one of those things that I find so difficult to get my head around. I really do. My own pet theory is that they're just doing it for comic effect, just to see how far they can push it. Imagine for a moment that the Earth was flat. Well, how much thickness does it then have? These are the kind of questions you'd have to ask. Okay, you've got an edge. Well, would things fall off the edge? Well, how do you generate gravity to make the things fall? What is it that's actually causing the gravity to make things fall off the end? A flat surface is fairly unstable to the other forces. It would be flexible and moved around. It's hard to even begin actually to talk about what a flat Earth would be like, because it's just so impossible.